Republicans have found a new rallying cry for their base. It's getting their followers to be angry about the fact that Obama is an imperial president, that Obama has become a king-like president. In the same breath they say that, though, they're saying time and time again how he is ineffective, how he won't lead. Well, they can't have it both ways. I've got Howard Nations here to talk about that very issue. Howard, New York Times did a great article where they talked about this contradiction that we're seeing coming from the right. It is on one breath, they're saying this is an imperial presidency. He's proclaimed himself the king. And then in the next breath, they say he barely is able to govern this nation. Constantly, those two themes are what we're hearing. Now, the interesting thing to me is that the followers, the teabagger Republican followers, are so, I guess, so dull-brained that they don't even see there's a contradiction here. It's amazing to me.
Yeah, on one hand, they're saying Obama is weak and ineffective, especially in foreign policy, and the leads from behind. They tried to reach Osama bin Laden for a comment on that, but as usual, the Republicans couldn't find him. But they also say Obama is conducting imperial presidency, overstepping his constitutional authority and choosing which laws to follow. But you got to understand that the target demographic of these conflicting messages is the Republican base, which is unencumbered by reason or logic. So it shouldn't be a problem for them to sell this message.
Well, it is. But Howard, at some times, don't you just step back and you say, look, have we become so dumbed down that even the people delivering the message are shameless about the idea? You know, as I say, they're concerned about executive orders. They say this is a president who is ignoring the American public, going forward with executive orders. He has signed a fraction of the executive orders that Bush signed or that Bush's daddy signed. I mean, so first of all, we know that's a lie, but it doesn't keep them from making that argument because they know that the American public has become so damn dumbed down that they can sell that. They're comfortable with it, aren't they?
Well, just remember that the people that they're appealing to think that Sarah Palin and Michelle Bachmann are good presidential candidates and real material for the presidency. So let's look at Paul Bruen to see what's happening on the stump. This is the guy who's running for the Senate in Georgia. He says that Obama has veered totally out of control, and what he uses as examples of that are the IRS abusing conservative groups. He says of Shakespearean proportions. If it's Shakespearean, it must be much ado about nothing. That was such a non-issue. But now let's look at this. He's still attacking Obama on Obamacare, the ACA being imperialism. It was passed by the House, it was passed by the Senate, it was signed by the President, it was upheld by the U.S. Supreme Court, it was upheld again by the public, who reelected Obama. You compare the Republican actions on Obamacare, they refused to accept the constitutional law of the land. They voted to repeal it 40 times. It's a complete waste of legislative time because if they do pass or repeal, Obama would veto it. But it remains a centerpiece of the Republican campaigns and the centerpiece of Ryan's new budget.
Town hall meetings, it's in the budget, it's that same drone. And here's what's really ugly. The people watching this that, you know, call themselves GOP teabaggers, they won't admit that really the only people who really buy into this is the insurance industry that's pumping all the money into making this happen. And never even with that, for example, the ACA, even with the money being pumped in, 7+ million people have signed up. Actually, the numbers are going to be higher. I think they're going to be closer to 8 or 9 million. We have 8 or 9 million people that didn't have insurance that have it. We have people walking out of insurance offices clapping their hands because they're paying $25 a month for insurance and they can actually get coverage. But the point is, rather than being able to deal with the logic of that, you see, the Republicans have hired very good people that always outmaneuver Democrats where it comes on the message. And the message is, this is an imperial president. He thinks he's king. He's pushing his power around. And when you compare what he has done in this administration to what Bush did, there's no comparison. It's not even a close call here.
Well, this is a Frank Luntz term, imperial presidency. He does focus groups. He comes up with things that sell to this demographic. This imperial presidency works in at least three ways. It gets voter turnout of the conservative base. It's how the Tea Party won in 2010, and it leads to extreme fundraising among the conservatives. And Obama prodded them directly in his State of the Union message when he said, Republicans are walking contradictions. That he has little choice but to use executive power in this polarized climate. And his spokesman said, we want to work with Congress. If not, we'll do it ourselves. But we see no political downside to this. So,
well, you or I would say to the president, do it yourself. But truthfully, let's look at it from our angle. From our angle, where we're being honest about this president hasn't done enough. He hasn't used the power of the pen enough. He has not used his, what I call, I'm fine with imperial power if it improves this country right now.
Exactly.
But the truth is, he hasn't done that enough. He's timid. He's a compromiser. He's always trying to reach across the aisle rather than understanding that we're dealing with thugs. On the other side of the aisle are thugs. And I wonder, as I watch this unfold, Howard, whether it has something to do with the idea that they know that about this president. They know that he is so timid. He is so afraid to make a move that by doing this deal with, oh, you're the imperial president, you're proclaiming yourself king, whether or not he takes that together with the fact that he's an African American and he says, well, maybe you're right, maybe you ought to back off, and so we'll have 2 more years of this president basically doing nothing. Is that something that concerns you?
Well, it is something that concerns me. And the other thing that concerns me is Congress has been setting him up. The Republicans have been setting him up. And it's not just the right wing, the far right wing. The leader, Eric Cantor, issued a 33-page report on the imperial presidency. In March, the House Republicans devoted a week of useless legislation to introducing bills to curb Obama's imperial presidency. What they're doing, it's a complete waste of legislative time, but it's a good political move. What they're doing is setting him up so that they can say, okay, we tried to pass all these things to curb all this, and he just keeps rolling right along with his imperial presidency. Now, will this change things in the red states? Will it make the red states get redder? That doesn't matter. What matters is these same tactics worked in 2010 to launch the Tea Party. So is this imperial presidency going to resonate with the independents? Unlikely. Will it resonate with progressives? No. But it will resonate in the Republican-based town hall meetings, definitely. And it
turns the nuts out. For example, when they have a town hall meeting in my town, if you go there, if you can even get close, you feel like you are in an insane asylum. I mean, that is what happens in these town hall meetings. This is merely something to introduce into the insane asylum, have them ranting and raving and raising hell about things that they don't even understand. So this is that talking point that is that red meat talking point that lets the folks in the institution get really rattled. That's what you're saying here, isn't it?
Yeah, and this is what bothers me about it. It can lead to greater conservative voter turnout, greater base fundraising, and in midterm elections, this could swing the control of the United States Senate to the Republicans. It's worked before. It could work again as the Republicans continue to repeat this phrase and other phrases in their town hall meetings and on that echo chamber known as Fox News.
As we already see right now, when the election was lost down in Tampa, Florida, by a very weak Democrat. As a matter of fact, I know this woman very well. She was a horribly weak Democratic candidate. She lost for governor the last cycle, and they ran her down in Tampa. Well, all of a sudden, you have Democrats that are saying, oh, my gosh, we can't talk about Obamacare because this candidate lost because of Obamacare. No, she lost because she was a bad candidate. But so Democrats, again, are going to be quiet. They're not going to be pushing back. They're not going to be loud, and they're going to get trounced again in midterm elections. This is why Nate Silver says the Democrats are going to lose in the midterms.
Right. President Clinton is urging Democrats to go out and embrace Obamacare, run on Obamacare, brag about, and bring something refreshing to the public on Obamacare, which is the facts and the truth. If the truth and the facts are known about the Affordable Care Act, it would be a wonderful platform for Democrats to run on. But they're timid themselves and they won't do it.
They're so timid. And you know what? The truth is, they're going into these elections, Howard, if you really try to figure out what the message is, I have a hard time doing that. I have a very difficult time trying to figure out what in the hell the message is for the Democrats, because it's almost as if they move into this mode where they disappear, their message disappears. All they want to do is they become so timid that they don't push back at all. And I think that's what Clinton was trying to tell them. I think they needed to be a lot more aggressive on issues besides just ACA. But Howard Nations, thank you for joining me.